everybody, and welcome to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks. And this is one of our editions of the show where we like to talk with an actor, director, or screenwriter, or even a recording artist from time to time. And that's one of those days. And that guy you're looking at right now has been an actor since being discovered for his commanding presence, charisma, natural talent, and booming voice. It's led him to being cast in several lead and supporting roles in film, commercials, and voiceover projects. And his ultimate passion is to impact and inspire audiences through the messages behind the characters he plays. He's also a good friend and a friend to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show. With no further ado, please welcome actor Skeeta Jenkins. What's up, Skeeta? How are you?
What's up, Mo? Thank you for this opportunity, brother. I know it's been a minute, but I'm back, and I just thank you for your patience, because I know you wanted to get me on before, but I'm here now.
Yeah, man, I've been trying to get up with you a long time, but I know that you've been going through a lot of things in your life. You know, life happens to all of us.
That's right.
And, it's totally understandable. God is working a miracle in your life in the midst of it all. And I'm thankful for that. But it is good to see you. You're healthy, looking great. You've been moving and grooving, man, doing your thing and around all of the things you've had to manage. Been doing a lot of stuff. But before we dive in, and I want the audience to get a better idea of who Skeeta Jenkins, the actor, is. How did you get stuck? Because I mentioned, you were discovered because of your commanding presence and charisma.
Yeah.
How did you get started in acting?
I went to the University of Mary Hardin Baylor, Go Crew, where I got my degrees from, and a professor and friend, Dr. Diane Howard, who's a dialect coach, called me out of the blue over 8 years ago on Valentine's Day. I'll never forget it, and asked me to do this. She asked me to do a monologue for this film they were producing, and I didn't know anything about acting, always wanted to do it. And because of Dr. Howard, I went ahead and did the monologue, and come to find out the monologue got the attention of the director, who was at that turn casting Michael Clark Duncan, but he had passed away. And the director thought he and I resembled each other. I'm not as big as he is, but they thought there was some resemblance and a little deepness in the voice. And that's how it all got started, brother.
Man, and as they say, the rest is history.
You've
Gone off and you've done a lot of film. You've done 32 films. You may have seen Skeeta Jenkins, ladies and gentlemen, on Amazon Prime. You may have seen him in theaters. You may have seen him on Pure Flicks. He's done a lot of acting. He's been in the crime drama Vindication, which can be seen on Redeem TV, Pure Flicks, Amazon Prime. He's also been in Puppet Master. He's been in 94 Feet. He's been in a lot of, you've probably seen Skeeta. I mean, you don't even need to see Skeeta. You're listening to his voice. You're like, I've heard him. I know that voice. So, he's a great actor. There's no question about that. And I want to thank you, Skeeta, for being on the show.
Oh, yes, sir.
Faith-based filmmaking. And that's what we are. We're faith-based entertainers, actors, and comedy as well. Faith-based entertainment is looking at somewhat of an uphill battle of getting attention from general audiences. I mean, the moment you say Christian, people immediately turn off in the secular world, and they're like, I'm not interested. I don't want anybody hitting me with a Bible. I don't want to hear that Jesus talk or whatever. Christians are kind of put in a certain avenue or category, and people don't pay attention. And that's what the faith-based world faces. But I think one of the biggest problems is the lack of building a big budget. Do you see that improving in 2023?
I see it improving a little bit, because the quality of the faith-based films now they're starting to go out and not just get, and I don't mean this as a put down, not just get people they know to fill the roles. They actually going out and starting to get actors and actresses to fill these roles, and there's some substance. And I don't see, some of them now may use scripture, they may use Jesus here and there, but a bunch of them are telling a story now and being more relatable to people. So I don't know about the big $100 million budgets. I don't, that's not happening. I don't see it happening anywhere unless you have money like you're a Mel Gibson and you can bring your own money to the table and do something like that. But I do see, more opportunities for them. And I pray that they get those big budgets.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest turnoffs for the secular world, outside of all the other things I just mentioned, is just the lack of budgeting. And I think it's very clear and obvious that there are films out there, many faith-based films out there, that don't measure up to, the Avengers, okay, or Guardians of the Galaxy, or any other big time film. You can see the lack of budgeting. Not that it's terrible. If you look at the Irwin brothers with I Still
Oh,
Believe, or
yeah.
some of the Kendrick brothers projects, they can make a $10 million budget look like it's 80 million.
Yeah.
So they can do some pretty work, but the reality is the funding isn't as great, and you would pray that more funding would come. But I do want to ask you this as well. Do you think this budgeting could come more from Christian entrepreneurs who do have the financial resources, or even mega churches? There's a ton of money available, in my estimation, I believe, within the Christian world itself, that could be made available. What say you on that subject?
I agree with you, but I think the Christian community needs to do one thing: come together, find a way to come together and put the resources together, and then they'll be able to match it. You know, Chosen gave people in the Christian community hope that we can raise money on a platform, money that people thought you would never raise, 10 million. Just crazy money they raised. But I think if churches as a whole come together, 6, 7 mega churches and with the goal of working together, because so many times you get this mega church and that mega church, and it's almost like they're against each other. And I think God has called the church to come together. And if we come together, and I say we as a collective whole, Christian churches come together and make a film, I think it could be something amazing with a bigger budget than we would ever even think or imagine.
Another aspect of this scenario is the Christian consumer himself,
Mm,
where I mentioned the Avengers, I mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy. I can go on and on with some top flight films that a Robert De Niro may be in. Although the theater platform is now kind of being consumed by Netflix and the stay
yeah,
at home on Hulu platform. However, that being said, you look at Christian consumers, and they're more apt to go after those films that I just named than a faith-based project. Why do you think that is, Skeeta?
I think for so long that's been the norm, and that's what people have done. And in the Christian community, we have um, I don't want to say we, because it's not everybody, but we just haven't pushed it. And then all of a sudden, 4 or 5, I think it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, Chosen come out and just break all those barriers that people thought a Christian, faith-based, whatever you want to call it, whatever name you put on it, our audience put on it, could make could make it, and could make the money. And I think the talent is there. The talent, as far as actors and directors and producers, the talent is there.
Yeah.
Mo, at the end of the day, we just need to come together. I don't know if I answered your question, but we just need to come together.
Well, we do need to come together. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks, talking with actor Skeeta Jenkins. You mentioned The Chosen,
Yeah.
and they're about to go into season 4, and they were able to get the budget they needed through a GoFundMe route. They raised $10 million through GoFundMe, which was absolutely amazing that they were able to do that. And as I mentioned, they're about to go to season 4. How do you explain the huge success of The Chosen?
I think The Chosen did something that I feel a lot of Christian shows can emulate or come close to doing. They made all of those characters human. and
Yeah,
and I don't mean yes they're human, but they made them the human flaws, the human, just the makeup of the human. And people were when you can make people relate to what they're seeing on the screen, it attracts them. And I think they just did. I can't say how many times I've been to different churches and I hear them, people in their small groups talking about The Chosen. They
yeah.
talked about they watched The Chosen as a small group. They did this with The Chosen, and I think Dallas did something that he probably thought he couldn't achieve, but he did it, and now it's just a continual part of the success. They filmed at Capernaum, they filmed in Utah. I mean, they're just going outside of everything that I think people would do, and they're doing it. When you can get 5,000 extras to come do a film when they feed the 5,000, that's how you know your show is pretty popular.
Well, one of the things about The Chosen, which I absolutely love, in fact, I've said it before, the two best faith-based programs going to me are The Chosen and Vindication. But
Yeah.
as I look at The Chosen, what draws me is the authenticity of Jonathan Rumi, who plays
Oh,
Jesus.
yes.
And
Yes.
Jonathan Rumi, I'm convinced I think that's the best portrayal of Jesus that I've ever seen. And I think that when you look at the story I think this is out of the book of Luke, I want to say, and if you're a student of the Bible, you would really appreciate Dallas Jenkins' approach to presenting the Gospel of Luke
Oh, yes.
in the way that he does. And all the actors are fine actors, and it's just amazing the way that some of the episodes can bring you to tears.
Oh,
Um,
really?
and
Yes.
I think episode 5, when they turn the water into wine, is one of the episodes that stands out to me. And it's just an amazing series. When you look at the beginning of The Chosen, how they went the GoFundMe route, God's hand is on that show.
Oh, my goodness, yes. Even that little time they spent in a theater, them 3, 4, 5 days. I mean, they people went in droves to watch it in the theater. He's on to something. And in season 4, I think it's going to be a movie. So in the movie format. So they're on to something, and The Chosen they'll make a lot of money from the movie version of it as well.
We were talking before we came on live that I was in Grapevine, Texas 2 years ago. I was here in part to attend the NRB conference. And
Mm,
at that particular conference, they had a showing of the episode drop of, I think it was episode 6 in season 2. And
mm.
I mean, they couldn't squeeze enough of the people into that room where they had the showing. I mean, it was overrun, and it might have been about 1,000 people in there, but it's just standing room only. And I was just thinking about it, and I went, This is utterly amazing." And to take it to the next level, there was a gentleman from the Middle East, or from that part of the world, who was up for an award. And he told me, once we got outside the room, when it was over, he said, "What's amazing about this is none of this is an authentic background of Jerusalem or that part of the world."
Wow.
Because as you alluded to a moment ago, it's filmed at Capernaum Studios, and I believe that's in Dallas. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, Weatherford, kind of Weatherford area.
Right in
And
the
they
area.
filmed some, yeah, they filmed some in Utah, you know,
Okay.
season 3, Utah. So they experimenting with different places to, I guess, to get that more authentic look.
Yeah. Well, had the gentleman not said that to me, I never would have considered it. Like,
Wow.
as I'm watching the show, I don't see anything as a disingenuous representation of that
Mm-mm.
life. I mean, it just looks authentic to me. So again, kudos to Dallas Jenkins for being able to present a real genuine idea of the time of Jesus, time on earth. And I really tell you too, when you look at it and you're watching how it all began, using my description of, hey, this is actually in Dallas. This ain't Jerusalem. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
But he made it look that way. They got the
Oh,
money
yeah.
to make it happen. You have this wild following of the chosen. And now they're about to go into season 4, and they have gotten to the point now where season 4 is going to be in a feature film format.
Yes.
Okay.
I think, and I think they're probably gonna rate. They probably make the most money, um, and they probably make a lot of money. I think they'll be second in line to the Mel Gibson version of, you know, I forgot. Lord, I'm forgetting the name of the Mel Gibson movie. Oh, it's every Easter they play it. Come on.
Oh yeah, well, I'm drawing now. You making me draw a blank. This old
I
age is
know.
kicking in now, Skeeta. But
Sorry, Lord.
I know the film that you're talking
Oh,
about,
the Passion of the Christ.
The Passion of the Christ. That's
Yeah,
it.
I, I
And
think it. I think it is gonna be second in line to Passion of the Christ with just the big old gigantic following the Chosen has. And
well,
Dallas, if you,
I read a quote by Dallas Jenkins in reference to season 4, the filming of season 4. He said there's a lot of pain and sorrow in the production of season 4. So we know that this
wow,
is going to be about the crucifixion of Christ, which is what made, the Passion of the Christ so compelling and enthralling,
yes,
because we saw our Lord and Savior go through a horrendous beating and torture and
yeah,
ultimately his death. We read about it, but to see it acted out, it was quite chilling, and to the point where you walked away saying and thinking to yourself, I don't want to see this again. But I think
yeah,
the reality is we need to see it, at least in my opinion anyway. We need to see it, and as often as possible, at least, for myself, I've said in my mind, I haven't done it, but I think I should watch it in its entirety at least once a year to remind myself of what Jesus did for me. And I want to
yes,
tell you this as well. Even that depiction wasn't as bad as it really was.
yes. I'm in total agreement with you. And Dallas, if you're out there watching, you have a great last name. But on top of that, if you need a Simon or Cyrene, holla at me. I'm just kidding.
But and so now when you think about season 4, the only difference from what I can see up to this point, because it has been a marvelous production, The Chosen has been, would be the budgeting that Mel Gibson had at his disposal to produce The
Oh
Passion
my
of the
goodness.
Christ, which was just completely over the top, versus what Dallas Jenkins has. But I do
Yeah,
agree with you, because of that only, it will probably fall second in line to a film that depicts the life of Jesus. And there have been many iterations out there that have portrayed the life of Jesus on screen, and they've all been pretty good. But I would have to say The Chosen is the best, and I will say it's not the best. It's close because of what you said about the Passion of the Christ. But I
yeah.
think Jonathan Rumi, even
Oh my goodness.
over even over oh my
Jim
God,
Caviezel.
Jim Caviezel in The Passion of the Christ, who did a great job. Jonathan Rumi is so authentic in his
Oh my
portrayal of Christ.
goodness.
He endears himself to you, and you
That was the
imagine.
that was the best probably casting Dallas probably has ever done, and making sure that man played Jesus. I mean, I'm with you, Mo. He does a phenomenal job.
Well, he makes you say in your mind, this is how Jesus was. Yeah, he was like that.
Yeah,
He was that way. And he had that little wry sense of humor to go with all the great things that he said. Just a hint of humor from time to time where you go, yeah, Jesus would have done that. He
yeah,
would have said it this way. You know what I mean? That's how well Jonathan Rumi portrays Jesus. So I've said all that to say this. Folks, go out and see it. Okay?
yes,
If you haven't seen The Chosen, go out and see it. And right now, you can actually download the app for
and
free.
watch them all for free.
You can watch them all free. That's another great thing that Dallas Jenkins has done. He's not trying to maximize how much of a monetary gain that he can get out of this. His goal is to witness to the world.
And I think he's doing it, man. And
That's-
people from all across the country are watching it.
And what's really interesting is it's not just Christians. It's
Yeah,
people out there that are like inquisitive and interested about this man Jesus that they've heard about, and they're just seeing an authentic presentation of it. So yes, he's doing a great job. He's doing a wonderful job. Do you think secular actors, as we continue on just faith-based filmmaking, particularly after COVID-19, Skeeta, are starting to be drawn more to faith-based films in their participation?
I think so. I think so from the standpoint of, I mean, not like films in Hollywood and Atlanta and Louisiana, faith-based films. You may not, you may not make all the money you would make big time actor up front, but over time, these films, every Easter the film's gonna show. Some of those films you forget about that you're in on the secular, but every Easter, Christmas, these films, these actors will be shown over and over and over. The passion of going back to Passion of the Christ. I think, look at that film. Every Easter is gonna make money,
Yeah.
every Easter. Because I always hear people saying, "Hey, we watching it today." My kids are old enough now. I'm gonna let them watch it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think think about Denzel Washington.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what do you think the chances that we'll ever see Denzel in a faith-based film? What do you think about that?
I think it will happen as he gets older. Think about this. Underneath all of his acting, Denzel's a preacher, man.
Yeah,
Denzel, people can say what they want. Oh, he was in this movie. Oh, he was in this movie where he was cussing. Oh, he was in this movie. That man loved Jesus probably more than anybody else out there in the world. And when you hear him talk and when you hear him say things, it comes through.
one of the things that I've always thought about Denzel Washington's performances is exactly what you just said. I
Oh
mean, if
yeah.
you are a man of God, if you are a follower of Christ, you can see that in him in every role that he plays.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I say, what do you think his chances would be of being in a straight up faith based film? But I also would add, you could say he's been doing faith based. He hadn't been doing it the way that we think he ought to do it.
That's
Maybe
right.
there's people out there that would criticize him and go, he ain't no Christian now. Wouldn't he? Can't be. Did you hear what he said? You see the things that he's saying and the people, the kind of people that he's portraying. Well, Jesus saved a lot of those kind of people.
That's right.
Matter of fact, Jesus hung out with a lot of those kind of people.
That's right.
And
That's
by
right.
gosh, he's just telling a story. Can you get over yourself for a minute?
Well,
Okay.
look, Mo, I'm not. I'm a. I'm a novice compared to Denzel, and I got flack for doing Puppet Master. So I
I
can
remember.
imagine
I
what
remember.
I can imagine what people say about Denzel. But with me, Mo, it's like the scriptures say that the temple is. I'm the temple.
Yeah.
And the temple is wherever I go, whatever set I'm on. And I don't have to hit people side the head with Jesus. I just love on people, man, and people could see when you're authentic and when you're truly loving on them, whether it's Christian film, faith-based film, secular film. You carry Jesus wherever you go, and I think Denzel does that on every set he's on, regardless of what you think about the characters he plays, regardless of what people thought about what I did. How can you play in a horror film? How can I not? It was the most beautiful time, one of the most beautiful times I've ever had, because I had people praying behind the scenes. I was praying myself, and the love of Jesus was just there. I got asked so many times, "Hey man, that's something about you." And then that's my opportunity to tell people, well, let me tell you that's something about me. I
Yeah.
love Jesus, and
Yeah.
as a result of that, he commanded me to love you. And so I'm just gonna love him. I never once told anybody, you need to read the Bible, you need to do this. God will bring him. If you humble yourself and let him exalt you. Luke 14:11 say, he who humbles himself will be exalted, and he who exalts himself will be humbled. So everywhere I go, I exalt him and let him do the humbling, regardless of what film it is.
One of the most striking films that I've seen, that was a great commentary that you just shared about your experience in Puppet Master and being judged because of your participation in it. I think we have a common friend, director friend by the name of Melissa Goad,
Yes.
that produced the film They Don't Cast Shadows, and she won an award at the International Christian Film Festival in 2021, I want to say, and it's a Christian horror film. And the
Mm,
reality is, the Bible deals with evil spirits. The Bible talks about confrontations between angels and demons. So the horror aspect of it actually needs to be corrected by the Christian and say, yeah, this is true, but this is who wins.
that's right.
And that's the part that Melissa Goad took. And instead of giving it a chance, and there's some Christians, some of which that may have attacked you for doing Puppet Master just because it was a horror film. Give it a chance, see what she's doing, see what she's talking about, see where it's going. But that being said, Melissa Go did do that. Getting to back to Denzel real quick, one of the most striking films I've ever seen him do is Antoine Fisher. Antoine Fisher was a mesmerizing film. And I could probably, I'm going to say one more thing about Denzel, and I'm going to move on because I could go on for an hour about Denny. But one thing about Denzel Washington that he has done, he's kind of like the Michael Jordan of acting. Whereas
Yeah.
every year when they give out the MVP, you knew it was Mike, but they had to give one to Magic, they had to give one to Larry, they had to give one to Charles Barkley, just so it wouldn't be all about Mike. But everyone knew he was the best dude in the NBA. And that's kind of how it is at the Oscars when Denzel Washington is there and he's up for an award. And it's like, he could have won 9 or 10 in a row if he wanted, but they had to give one to to Ben Affleck, Casey Affleck, Ben's little brother. They had to give one to Tom Hanks. They had to give one to look. I'm not discrediting those that won, but I think we all know. Okay, at the end of the day, that should have gone to Denzel Washington.
Yeah, he's a goat.
And the last one I remember where he was left standing at the door was his performance in Faces. Viola Davis won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. You mean to tell me you're not going to give the Best Actor to Denzel? I got to leave it. Skeeta, I got to leave it alone, or I'll just keep going and going and going. But I did want to bring that up as far as faith-based goes, as far as
Yes.
actors out there. I did mention Tom Hanks. There are a lot of actors out there that have dabbled into the faith-based world, and I think we're starting to see. And coming out of COVID-19, I think people are questioning their existence.
Yeah.
You know, COVID-19 shut everybody up for about
It,
3
it,
years. Nobody was going out.
it really did. And I think it posed the question of, if you want to know anything about life, we always have to start with the author,
Yes,
the
we
author
have.
of life. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
any questions anybody have who's watching this, and you, if you ever want to know anything about life, you always got to start with the author of life. And the Bible said, because he came to give us life.
That's right. That's right.
You got to start with it.
We are listening, ladies and gentlemen, to the words of wisdom by actor Skeeta Jenkins on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks. I want to thank you, Skeeta, for being on the show.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
I I want to ask you about a motivational program that you do weekly. It can be seen on Facebook, and it's hugely inspirational. You got tons and tons of followers and likes because it's so powerful. These motivational um, programs that you do. What motivated you? Speaking of motivation, to start this presentation about faith?
You know, it's been almost since Facebook started. I went back and to see the furthest of when I started. And I
Okay.
always, we have all of this divisiveness, whatever you want to call it in the world.
Yeah.
People realize, I mean, a lot of people think, just because you don't agree with me, we still can't walk hand in hand. And I just had enough. And I
Yeah.
always want to be in a point where I can just sow a little light in the world. And when I started it, I was like, hey, here was just something I did. And as it kind of progressed, I just turned it into Monday's motivation. And I was like, man, I can't do this every day because I got a job and I got other stuff to do. So I'll record something. I usually record it on Sunday and post it on Monday and just call it Monday's motivation. And I just do it to bring light into the world and to motivate people and to let them know where I stand with my faith, because I'm always gonna put something in that highlights the Lord and lift him up. And you will be surprised at the messages I get, the inboxes I get, just saying, hey, don't stop. Hey, please don't stop doing this. It is exactly what I needed to hear today. And a lot of prayer and a lot of just looking through things I've been through. And sometimes more, I'm talking to myself too,
Yeah.
because I need the motivation. And a bunch of the times I'm talking to myself, but people relate to it. I mean, when people stop me and say, hey, whether I'm out with my family or at the hospital visiting someone, and it just brings me joy when people come up and say, hey, what you talked about today is what I really wanted to hear. And then
Yeah.
I, in turn, do what I told you. I say, the Lord just used me I just allowed him to use me as a vehicle. And Facebook has always been the vehicle. And now I post it on Instagram as well. And the same responses. But it's not me, it's the Christ in me that allows me to do it.
Well, it's a wonderful program that you post on a regular basis. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're on Facebook, which I think most of the world's on Facebook, look for Skeeta Jenkins and his motivational speeches. Follow him. He posts it every week, and it'll change your day. Believe me, it'll change your day. Skeeta also speaks to youth groups, ball teams. He presents sermons in church as well on a regular basis. Skeeta, we did a couple of programs a couple of years ago called The Lack of Diversity in Faith-Based Films. You
Hmm.
and I had done a show together, and through that show, the idea came to actually do a show on the subject. And you and I,
Yes.
along with Cameron Arnett, let's see, Michael Patterson, Anthony Hackett,
Yeah.
Sharon Lanier, Karen Bankhead, and Karen Abercrombie. We did a couple of iterations of that. I think one of them included Jared O'Flaherty. I did another one that involved the Latino community as well, because they're often discriminated
That's
against,
right.
as well as African Americans, as well as Asian Americans. And we did a show as well. Michael J. Rodriguez, Jared O'Flaherty, and we did that, and out of it came some interesting manifestations. And one of those was, there was a guy out there of a prominent faith-based program. I had posted the promotion of the show on social media. And a member of a prominent faith-based program responded, and he said, "I'll remember not to watch." And I went, "Whoa." And it floored me. I could not believe that someone in the faith-based community, forget about the world, I guess we can kind of expect that, but not in our fold, not in the body of Christ. There's no way that something like that could happen, but it did. And so, with that being said, what does that say to you, Skeeta, about the faith based community and how it's perceived by others who are on the outside looking in and they experience something like that?
I think I think I've heard it before that you're they're trying to tell us what to do, but they're arguing and they don't agree amongst themselves.
Right.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
great point. Great point.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean it's like us, and this is just a statistic, but in the faith-based community, we talk about marriage, and marriage is just something that came to mind. But we have the statistics is almost higher than the world. So
yeah.
and that's what the world want to look at and say, well, how you gonna tell us about it? And look in your community, it's almost higher than it is in the world. People look for, you can find excuse with everything we do, whether it's the secular side or the Christian side. But I think we as Christians, we always have to stand on the truth, and the truth can only be found in the Word. Stay true to the Word in that whole process.
You had an opportunity to appear in one of the hottest dramas, crime dramas in Christendom. In fact, I would say it's the hottest crime drama without question in Christendom, called Vindication,
Yeah,
created by Jared O'Flaherty, who's working now as we speak on season 4.
yeah.
Season 3 is in the books, and you can see it on Redeem TV, PureFlix, and Amazon Prime. You were a part of season 1, and I just kind of want to ask you a question about that, because it was a great, it's just a great show. Matter of fact, let's allow our audience to see the trailer for season 1.
Okay.
You're gonna risk your job, everything you work for. I don't want you getting tangled up in this. I don't know if I'll follow the rules.
You know you can't get rid of me that easily.
Come on, seriously.
If the roles were reversed, would you risk it for me?
This is off the record. That means you don't talk about it.
You think he's really gonna show?
He'll show.
Well, I got to tell you right now, I love that show. And in fact, I
I
was
love it.
actually introduced to the show by you and Candace Kirkpatrick. But your opinion of the grittiness of Vindication and the willingness of Jared O'Flaherty to take on subject matter that most faith-based filmmakers are not willing to take on.
I think he did it in such a fresh way that you won't see the sex and you won't see all the stuff that the world do, but you see the almost innuendo, so to speak, of those things that can be possibly happening in those moments. But it's something you can watch with your family, and because a lot of people don't want to watch stuff that they think, oh no, my kids can't see this. No, your kids can watch it. It's he just did it in such a fresh way, if that makes any sense.
It makes
And
perfect
I agree,
sense. Yeah.
and I agree with you, not because I'm in it. I uh I think it's one of the most I think it's one of the, like you said, one of the best crime dramas, Christian crime drama. And I wouldn't even say so much Christian, because there's not a lot of stuff knocking you in the head saying you need to go to Jesus, you need to go to Jesus, this, that, and the other. It's just a fresh way that he had of doing it, almost like the Chosen, making stuff that happen in everyday life normal, so people you get the buy-in from them really fast.
And as I mentioned, Jared O'Flaherty, being a part of the lack of diversity in faith based films, he agreed to be a part of one of those shows because he was convicted after seeing the first show And I'm sure Jared would not mind me talking about this, but he said he was convicted. And he said that he didn't even consider the fact that he wasn't in being diverse in his assembling his cast. He only, associated that with people that he goes bowling with, or people he goes out to dinner with, or people that go to his church who are all white. And
Hmm.
he never stopped to think about being non-inclusive until he saw the show. And he just said, man, Maurice, I got to tell you, I never really thought about that. So we were able to get his attention. And now you look at season 2, and it is diverse. And it does include members like Cameron Arnett from the African American community, who is a tremendous actor. T.
Yes.
Stallings is a part of it as well. And so you look at it, and Sharon Lanier is in
Yeah.
season 3.
Uh,
So he's broadened his horizons, and it's interesting to see how the lack of diversity in faith-based films did affect. I mentioned how someone that was prominent in the faith-based world said something negative, but it also produced something positive. And as you watch
yes.
Vindication, you can see how it's changing. Have you noticed? Have you taken notice?
Oh yeah. You have to take notice because and I didn't think much of it in the first season until I saw it, and I was like, oh my goodness, how you gonna have a police department, and that there's no people of color, not just African Americans, just people of color in nowhere in your police department. So Jared was humble enough to know that some stuff needed to change, and my hat goes off to him for doing that. He's a great guy.
You did the film 94 Feet in 2016. This was a depiction of a true story. It actually happened. And I think it's one that people need to see. Tell us a little bit about 94 Feet.
Yeah, 94 Feet was one of my second films kind of out the door that I thought was really cool. And it's funny, people say I look like Michael Clark Duncan, and my character name was Michael Duncan in the film. So it was a kind of throwback, and and some of the vibes from the film he was portrayed in was the same vibes in that when we got trapped in a mine. The mine was like high. The mine just made me look like a big old dude. I am a big guy, but the mine just made me look like a big fella in it. But if it's an older film, and if people haven't seen it, I think there are times and moments in the film that like Chosen, like Vindication, that'll just capture your heart in the sense of you'll see the love of Christ just shared throughout in it. It was Chip Rossetti was the director, and some of my people I keep in contact with from that film, Courtney and Mike Tinker, those guys are still some friends of mine from that film. So it was a great start for me, and I got to watch all of my early things that I was like, oh. And as an actor, you always look at something and say, I could have did this better, I could have did that better. But there were a lot of things that I felt that I could have did better from that film.
Well, I think it's one that people need to go out and see, 94 Feet. You are also of most recent import, Skeeta, a part of a TV miniseries called Grief Share. Tell us about this project and how we can see it.
Grief Share, oh my goodness. The audience is good. We did 4 parables. It's a story. It made 4 parables. The prodigal son, the unforgiven servant, the lost coin, prodigal son, unforgiven servant, the lost coin. Oh man, I'm forgetting one. Prodigal son, unforgiven servant. Oh, and the lost sheep. So
Yes, sir.
they took those 4 stories out of the Bible, and you would and they just made a mini series out of each story, and I got to play a therapist, and so I'll be basically in all 4 of the episodes
Okay.
when it does come out. And it was done, Mo, we talked about it, it was done by a church.
Okay. Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, it was done by a church. I love what this church is doing. If you, Mo, have you seen I Can? It's the church that did I Can. They did the, if you haven't seen I Can, Mo, you
Okay.
need to go out and check it out. I think
Okay.
it may be on some of those platforms that we talked about. I know
Okay.
it just did like a week and a half here in my hometown in the theater. So
Okay.
it was in the theater. It's called I Can. The director is Tyler Sampson,
Okay.
and the dude is phenomenal. We filmed it in Indiana. I
Okay.
mean, not Indiana. I flew to Louisville. Yeah, we filmed it in is it Indiana or Kentucky? It's Indiana. We filmed it in Indiana, and it
Okay.
was it's called Grief Share, and it's about those 4 stories that I told you about. And I've had a chance to see each episode, a rough draft copy, and I have to say, not because I'm in it, I'm just I was pretty impressed by it. But this church, Tyler's actually a pastor. They take a story from their church, true stories, and they make movies about the stories. And I Can is about the girl who played softball. She was born with one arm,
Okay.
and she's an All-American softball player. She became an All-American softball player. You have to watch this. Cameron is in it. Cameron
Oh,
Arnett is
wow.
in it. Yeah,
Okay.
you have to check it out. Cameron Arnett he's one of, without telling you his part, he's one of the coaches in it that recruits the girl. So it's pretty cool.
Now, is this a true or fictitious story?
Oh no, it's true. It's true. It's
Oh,
based
wow.
on the life of the real girl, of the real young lady who goes to Tyler's church. So
Okay.
they
I got you.
yeah. So they take a
Amazing.
story. So they take a story out of a true story out of their church and make a film out of it. And they've been doing some pretty cool stuff. Keep an eye out for them.
I am definitely going to keep an eye out for it. I saw the poster of the film and I did not know Cameron was a part of it, but the poster is very impressive. And when can we expect perhaps to see Grief Share, and what platform may it be on? Or will it be released in theaters?
I think with these guys, I think it may be released in theaters around, I'm guessing, but 2024, April, May of 2024. I think some people are going to be touched by it. Some of the stories are really, really, I mean, all 4 of the stories are really compelling, and they got some really great actors in it. And I can't wait for the world to see it.
It looks quite impressive, Skeeta, and I'm excited about Grief Share. It looks like it's going to be a very impressive film or miniseries, however they choose to produce this. But it looks
Yes.
quite impressive. It looks quite impressive, and I'm excited about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to actor Skeeta Jenkins on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks. Skeeta, what kind of advice can you leave with young actors and actresses out there that are thinking about giving a legitimate 100% shot at acting, and not just acting, but doing it God's way and doing it in the faith-based world? And as you accurately stated, sometimes you can still be doing it in a faith-based way. It's just that folks on the outside who are holier than thou and overcritical may say that's not God's work, but it
Yeah.
is. What kind of advice can you leave with them?
I would tell every actor that's getting out there, just starting, be comfortable in your own shoes, know who you are as a person, and always stand. You always have to be standing on a solid foundation. And when I say standing on solid foundation, you have to have a foundation of Christ, because you're going to be told no so many times. And I've watched actors who just, when they're told no, it's almost like they just can't take it anymore. And
Yeah.
so you have to be comfortable with who you are as a person, and know who you are, and knows whose you are, and just knowing who you are in Christ. And just know you don't have to take your clothes off. You don't have to kiss people. You don't have to do any of that. But just stand on your principles, and don't let people pressure you into doing something you don't want to do.
I totally agree with that, Skeeta. I think you have to have some boundaries that you won't cross, that you
Yes.
set for yourself, and you stay committed to those boundaries. And people will begin to respect you for who you are as an actor, and they'll go, "I want you anyway," just
Hmm.
because you're that good at your craft. I've mentioned Denzel a lot, but I'm going to tell you right now, he's one of those people that is stuck, to his guns on certain things about acting. Oh yeah, he's crossed some lines here and there that others are critical of, but one thing he's never done is some of the things you just described. And another thing that he's never done, he's always said that you never, and I'm just talking about Denzel's stance. He said, "You're never going to see me in, in a dress." That's one of the boundaries that he set for himself. And that being said, at the end of the day, he's so good at what he does. Nobody cares what he doesn't do. I just want
Yes,
that guy. I need that guy in
that's
my film. I
that's
need for him
true.
to play Detective So and so, or I need to play for him to play the guy down at the railroad yard, or I need him to be this janitor. I need for him to be this teacher. What I need that guy because he's great at what he does.
Mo, I think that's a good one, in being so good that people can't refuse you. And I think that's what Denzel do, and that comes with young actors. You got to practice.
Yeah.
In football, I played sports. If you want to be good, you got to practice. I don't care if it's 10, 20 minutes a day. Do something, read plays, read scripts. Do something where you're practicing. If you're looking in the mirror, do something.
And Denzel has actually said that before too, because he's kind of been slightly critical of those that overmarket themselves. Hey, come see me here, come catch me in this, yada 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 yada, trying to draw attention to themselves. And Denzel has always been a proponent of, hey, look, just be good at what you do, and they'll come find you.
Yeah. The work will speak for itself.
Steve Martin, one of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time, who stopped in 1980 simply because he said, "I don't think I can go any further." I mean, he got to the point where he had created so much material that he had gotten it down to. I'm sure you remember that Wild and Crazy Guy that he did. I think it was 1978. I forget which it was, but that was the last great comedy tour that he had ever gone on. And then he just said, "I don't think I can think of any more." And he went into acting. But he said, be so good that they come looking for you.
Mm,
Steve Martin used to do a comedy on the street in San Francisco. He used to juggle balls in the air. He did magic. He's bombed on stage several times. He's been here. He's been there. But he kept grinding. He kept grinding. He kept grinding. He kept grinding. He got to the point where people were looking for him.
yep.
And that's
Keep
what it
grinding.
comes down to, Skeeta. That's what it
I
comes
agree.
down to.
Keep
Just
grinding. I agree, Mo.
just keep right on grinding, and they're going to come and find you. And I said all of that, Skeeta, to end it with, and how much more can we do in Christ?
That's right.
You know, we forget who we are sometimes. It's easy to forget. And
Yeah,
we got to remind ourselves who we are, Skeeta. We just do.
we
And
really do.
you made the comment that sometimes you even, when you do the motivational series that can be found on Facebook, sometimes you're just doing it for yourself. You're trying to encourage yourself, you know.
You have
Uh,
to. You have to.
but we have the resources as Christians. We have the Bible. We have, Christian friends. We have Bible studies. We have church. I mean, we have prayer. I mean, God's given us. We've got fasting. God's given us every resource to literally dominate. And I
Yep.
don't mean that in a braggadocio way, where you are just like, you can't hurt me.
That's right. Man, I think it's Romans 8:37-39. It says, yet in
Yes.
all things we're more than conquerors. For I'm persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other created thing shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus. So I end on this note. There's nothing you can do to make God love you any less. Nothing can separate you from his love. So, to the person who thinking they're unlovable, there's one person who will always love you. And that's just the Savior of the world. He'll always love you, regardless of what you did in your past, regardless of what you've done today that you think is the worst thing. Just know, underneath it all, God still loves you.
And on that note, I don't think I can think of a better way to end this show. Thank you so much, Skeeta Jenkins, on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show. Actor Skeeta Jenkins on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks. Skeeta, thank you so much for being on the show. And yes, Skeeta, did you want to add something?
No, I was just saying, appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And
we need to get together for breakfast.
we've got to do that. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you can also listen to this interview on Spotify, where all major podcasts are heard. And you can also watch this show in its entirety, courtesy of KCHF TV 11 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, every Saturday night, and at 8 p.m. during prime time on Saturday, you can watch the Maurice Brown Comedy Show. Skeeta Jenkins, once again, on our show today. Thank you so much, my good actor friend. It's always good chopping it up with you. My friend, may the peace of Jesus Christ continue to be with you and your family. God bless you.
God bless you too, brother.